few months ago, I rashly decided to book a couple of days away between Christmas and New Year, not thinking at all about the weather.
Good morning and welcome to Trebarwith Strand in Cornwall. We left West Sussex at 5 o'clock to get here for high tide. I knew it was going to be a bit windy. I'm going to put my hat up actually because I look a bit ridiculous like this. I knew it was going to be a bit windy, but quite frankly, wasn't quite expecting this. Between 40 and 50 miles an hour, I knew that, but didn't quite think it'd have this effect. Whew. Whilst I'm down in Cornwall, I'm going to be staying in Bude. I've got 4 days down here in the van. It could be quite choppy, but I thought it'd be quite nice to get away. Yeah, a bit of coastal photography. I knew it was going to be rough, but there's rough, and then there's this. Crikey, I've just seen those waves. Whilst I'm down here, I'm going to be looking at 3 places. Trebarwith Strand, which is here. Forgive the wind noise, I'm going to shelter a little bit. I'm going to be going into St Nectan's Glen, and I'd also like to have a look at Boscastle. Crumbs, now this might be worth getting the camera out just to have a look at some of these waves. Oh my God. I don't think whoa. Okay, let me show you what I'm oh my godding at. It's quite exciting, but oh my God. Well, this is a sight that greets me this morning. I've got my own foam party and some very exciting wave action going on. Nice clouds. Not sure I can do a damn thing with this. Never mind, what I might do, ooh, there's a natural ledge to the left here. Natural, there's nothing natural about it. There's a ledge here. I might just see if I can go there. That's ridiculous. It's just foam. I'm going to get nothing. Look at this. Oh my goodness.
But nevertheless, I grabbed my kit, jumped onto that wall and waited.
Well, having placed myself in a rather precarious place, I'm going to have to come back at either a different time of tide or it's not quite so bonkers, but blimey, that was something else. It was like single cream kind of coming in towards me at certain times. Not my favourite, but I've taken a few photos and a bit of video because I don't think I'd believe it if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes. Yeah, let's come back on a calmer time, a little bit lower tide. Meanwhile, off to breakfast, most important.
Now I'm back home, I realised that where I was staying in relation to the places I wanted to explore wasn't exactly logical, being about 40 minutes away. That is a distinct lack of foresight on my part.
In the background you are seeing the area of Tintagel, which is famous for King Arthur and all the legends that surround him. That's a little bit up the road from where I am now. I'm actually going to be heading towards St Nectan's Glen and the famous waterfall. Now this is the height of when everybody comes. Unfortunately, there are 5 cars in the car park. That shouldn't be too bad, should it? And I'm going to go and got my wellies on, my plastic trousers, because we're due for a couple of downpours, and hopefully I'm going to get a nice shot without foam this time. Now we've decided to come to St Nectan's Glen in part to get a little bit of respite from the wind. It's about 25 to 30 minutes from the car park, just along a little lane. It's quite nice really, lovely views and some nice cows. A little bit of tourist information for you. It's £7.45 for an adult to get in, concessions for quite a lot of people. As part of that you used to get gumboots or wellies, but you don't get that anymore. So strongly advised to take your own wellies if you are going to be photographing, because you will want to get into the water. What I'm looking for are some nice waterfalls leading up to the main event. Of course this is winter, so I'm not going to get the lovely foliage or the nice colour, but what the heck, I think this should be quite a nice little walk, and for once I'm not being blown about.
Tourist update number 2. This is not a place for either those of us who have mobility issues or people with impractical shoes. The walk starts fairly flat, but it gets progressively more uppy, downy and wet. Technical terms, you understand.
This is rather nice. More green than I was anticipating. I found a fern I'm rather stuck on. It's going to be so noisy. I'm going to do a focus stack, or I am doing a focus stack. But it's sort of like that. I'm preferring to 1/4 of a second to 1/2 a second. I don't know if it will work.
I think eradicating the sky really helped here, as well as having that fern so dominant that it helps counteract the water leading the eye out of the picture. Now, although there's some lovely mini waterfalls here, I chose not to shoot them, principally because they were surrounded by brown and that lush greenery I had earlier had disappeared. Having paid my £7.45 and followed an impressive trail of walkways, I finally got to the place I shall call the Wrecker of Shoes. Oh, and of course the waterfall, just up there round the corner.
Well, it was definitely quite wet, far too noisy to shoot, but very nice. Wanted to do it for quite a while. I don't think I've done it justice. There were far too many people there, but just nice to be able to be under something so powerful. I'm not so sure about some of the bits and bobs around here. I'm just thinking there's lots of logs with pennies bashed into them and bits of material which I'm sure had some spiritual significance a while ago. They're just looking a bit soggy now, but really nice place to be. Right, St Nectan's Glen in winter. Upside, not that many people. The water is too cold for the 80% of people that have got the wrong footwear on and have had to go barefoot, so you get the place a little bit more to yourself. Downside, it's really muddy and there's tons of water, which means that you do tend to get a bit wet, as you'll probably see in the photos.
Now, since I was so close to Trebarwith Strand, I thought I'd go back and have a bit of a sneaky peek just to see what it looked like 4 hours after my foam party. Now, clearly this was more of the ideal spot that I'd need to shoot from, but the tide had receded far too much, the locals were exploring and... oh, what's that? Foam? Surely not.
Good morning. It has been somewhat of a rough night. We have had a gale and rain for most of the night. Downside of this setup in our van, I decided I wanted just a king-size bed and then we'd cook out the back there. When it's weather like this, it's not really going to happen. So, decisions. One, do we abandon because we've got basically 48 hours of rubbish coming through? Do we get creative and go for somewhere for breakfast and see if it clears up a bit later? It seems that pretty much everywhere I want to go to is either on top of a cliff or going to be with a lot of foam, but what the heck, we'll give it a go. Or do we just sit in here, play cards and drink wine? I'm going to go for the middle option.
I think at this stage I need to say that my normal high wind photographing tips were either impractical as it was so blowy or totally incompatible with the in-your-face sea spray I was about to experience. Now at this moment things were starting to look up. Unfortunately, after I set up, the wind whipped up even more and the rain started. The sea spray was also intolerable.
We're now at Boscastle, having been at Trebarwith Strand for a good couple of hours. It was interesting. I think that's the thing to say. Really large waves, which could have been very exciting, but it just got a bit sketchy. I did nearly lose my tripod, but luckily my camera wasn't on there. Caught it at the last minute. It's my fault. Turned my back on something and forgot how windy it was. I think everything I've got there is covered in spray. Never mind. So Boscastle, everything's uniformly grey. It's not really great, but tomorrow is going to be blanket rain. So got to make the most of everything today. We've just parked up and we're going to make our way to the east side, up on the cliff edges up there. See if I can just get some views. I'm guessing this is going to be a recce for another time when I come back with better light. this confused rock and there's this. I think we're headed up for the jaggedy edge up there to take some nice photos, she says. I want to try and capture that with the sun coming into the left, but make sense of the foreground. Right, we are approaching the last night of the day here at Boscastle, and I have to say it's a bit of a trek back down. Really quite nice. We had some kind of glow going over this side as the sun's going down over the hill, but it's so windy. But at least for once I haven't got foam coming at me and I haven't got spray coming at me.
The next day was exactly as predicted, blowing a hoolie and raining for most of the day, so we made an executive decision to go home and to visit one of the most reliable locations on the way, Welcombe Mouth. No, that access road had not got any wider, we just keep hoping.
Come to Welcombe Mouth, of course, I have to come to this place. Because last time it was kind of a bit of a discovery. I got a couple of shots I was quite pleased with. And this time we're a little bit before high tide, about an hour or so before high tide. And we're just going to perhaps have a look at that waterfall, which hopefully has quite a bit more water in it and more power in it than it did beforehand. It's one of those lovely places where you have a waterfall that goes onto the beach. Today, it's still rough, but it's not 40 miles per hour gales, it's 25. Let's just see what happens. So dearest, how would you describe the past 3 days?
On the damp side.
And how would you describe being married to me right now, having dragged you down here for 3 very windy and rainy days?
Depressing, really.
Depressing. Right, Happy New Year everybody. Well, since the beach is somewhat out of bounds, oh God, the waterfall I'm at, when I've seen it before, is really quite small. I thought I'd try shooting the upper part of the waterfall, and then I think we're going to give up.
So I tried a number of compositions, none of which I'm in love with. I got wet and I did indeed pack up. This is such a versatile place when the wind and weather plays ball, so I'm going to show you some shots from this trip and a few from my previous ones, because I really would like to try and do it some justice.
Well, had I actually managed to go on the beach, I'd have just been photographing foam going up and down. The weather has been so interesting here that it has caused foam to be on most of the beaches. Well, thank you for joining me. I hope next time to actually show you some photos that I can be quite proud of, as opposed to ones that are covered in splodges of rain. Never mind. I'll see you next time, wherever that is, wherever I end up. Happy New Year.